Okay, guys, stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
I've been in the studio. I'm recording my 12th audiobook. Dr. Joshua Bowen's doing an updated version of his book on biblical slavery. And I don't know how many times I've been engaging a believer. You've probably done this, right? You crack the Bible open and you take your finger and you just point right down. Oh, look, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, slavery, beating slaves. Selling your daughters into slavery, into sex slavery, that kind of thing. And the apologist looks at you with that kind of mannequin stare, that condescending, superior thing. And, oh, you poor thing, if only you had the Holy Spirit to guide you in your quest through the Bible, you'd understand it's not slavery. They didn't own other people. It was indentured servitude. They were there to pay off a debt, or they were serving a master in some way, but it wasn't ownership. And you and I are like, well, why does Exodus chapter 21 talk about a master taking a rod and beating the shit out of his indentured servant? Like, why would he do that? Well, it wasn't a beating. It was a gentle correction, like you would correct a child. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Well, if you spare the rod, you spoil the indentured servant. I mean, I swear to you, if I had read those verses, which likely they're not even aware of, and I had first told them it came out of the Quran, did you hear about what Islam says? You could have slaves and you could beat your slaves. You think they'd be pulling that indentured servitude bullshit? I guarantee you they would not. Anyway, I'm like 270 pages into the narration. The book itself, minus the appendices, I think comes in at, 360, something like that. And it's out in print version. But I'll have, I may actually even talk to Josh on the show about it. Because slavery, it's one of those conversations we're having all the time about the Bible. And I'm struck by how uninterested believers are about these verses. And getting into the Near Eastern laws and all that, it's fascinating, to learn about the culture in which the Bible was written. Okay. I am speaking in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada at BajaCon. That's coming up this weekend. I'll be in Wichita mid-September. If you want to come out, it's going to be a great time. SethAndrews.com/events has the details. Speaking of travel, Natalie and I are thinking about taking a trip together. She's a beach person. Like, she loves the warm, even the hot weather, and she dreads the cold. And so even though it's still kind of summer, she has been in a funk about the fact that it will soon not be summer. She would not mind me telling you this story. It was late July. Okay, it's late July. And I noticed she's kind of in a funk. She's kind of down. Honey, what's the matter? Oh, I'm just sad. What are you sad for? What's going on? Well, it's going to be cold soon, and I'm just not ready for the cold weather. And I looked at her, and I'm like, it's 103 degrees outside, baby. It's not even August yet. It's July. It's 103. It's sweltering. It's so hot I can't even walk the dogs because it'll burn their paws. You're already thinking about December. I know. But it's coming, and I really wish it wouldn't get cold. It's 103 outside. It's 103. So we've been having that conversation. But we're trying to get away because We're both on the hamster wheel. You ever get that way? Even when you love what you do, you find yourself just needing a break. She and I don't get to travel hardly at all together. People ask me, well, does Natalie ever join you on the road when you go speak? But that's not quality time. Hey, honey, would you like to hear the speech I've been giving and sit at the book table for a weekend? I mean, that's not together time. And normally she's a beach person, but I've been thinking I would like to try to get her to Washington, D.C. I went on a business trip. I've been 4 or 5 times. It's kind of magical. I mean, I felt it was magical. I was there. It was night. The sun had gone down. I was walking around. There's the Lincoln Memorial and the National Mall, and we walked up by the White House gates, and it's like going back in time. Over 2 centuries. There's something really magical and amazing about it. And of course, that's a hard sell for October. I don't know how cold it gets in DC, but I'm like, honey, this might be different. I know you like the beach, but do you want to go to DC? The problem is outside of the monuments, I have no idea what else to do in Washington, DC. If you are familiar, send me an email or put something in the comments section. Give me some guidance, right? I need assistance from the natives. Anyway, that's a quick snapshot. One more story, by the way, and I know it irritates some people when I talk about the dogs, but this just happened. And I'm thinking about it even now. It just made me happy. I'm smiling right now. Let me tell you why before we get to the phones and talk about what you want to talk about. You know that we have Linus and we adopted Gracie. She was a foster fail. An owner surrendered to the Humane Society. Very timid dog. Very affected. I mean, if somebody closes a door too hard, or if I drop a Tupperware lid on the ground or whatever, she will jump in the air and run out of the room. I don't know what her life looked like before we adopted her, but she's so timid and so affected. And when we got her, she wouldn't do anything. She was afraid of the stairs. She would only go in certain rooms. She was under the bed, and she hated the leash. Even her owner, when the dog was surrendered, she said, well, Gracie doesn't do the leash. She doesn't like to go on a walk. I guess she was housed inside hopefully not a crate for 4 years, whatever. So I take Linus instead of Gracie. So this morning, we do our routine. I went down. Linus, you ready? Want to go for a walk? And he bounces up in the air and he scatters all around and his tail is wagging 1,000 miles an hour and he is ready to rock and roll. He loves to go for a walk. And so I'm down there and I'm saddling Linus up. And I look up and staring at me from the living room about 20 feet away, it's Gracie. Gracie is wagging her tail. And her eyes are like happy eyes. Not afraid, but engaged, positive. And so I looked at her this morning and I'm like, Gracie, you want to go for a walk? And she slowly stepped toward me. 10 feet away, she sat down. Gracie, do you want to go for a walk? And she got up and walked another 5 feet away. Gracie, are you ready? You want to join us? And she came all the way, plopped down right in front of me. I put her leash on her, and we bounded out the door, and she did great. I mean, she's walked, right? She's walked before, but it's always been stressful. And I try not to force her to walk. I don't want to do that. She came to me, tail wagging, eyes wide, and we bounded around the block. She was a real dog. And I'm just delighted to see the progress my baby girl has made. It just warmed my heart, All she needed was a chance. She's out there sniffing around and wagging and checking everything out and enjoying the sunshine before it becomes wildly hot outside. Anyway, I'm happy. I'm having a happy moment as we begin today a random broadcast about whatever is on your mind. Area code 906. Is it Joe?
Yep.
Joe, thanks for calling.
Hi.
What's on your mind?
Hi, Seth. I got to credit you for basically changing my life accidentally. I lost my husband 6 years ago, and I didn't handle it well. And I had no real family to fall back on, so I was just me and my son pretty much, and that was it. And I just got really depressed. I didn't want to see anyone. So I have been watching you for years, and I've been listening to Allison Gill for quite a while. So I saw that you were both going to be at the Atheist Convention in Phoenix, and I said, it's time. I need to do something. So I flew out there by myself. I got to tell you, the convention was kind of depressing because I used to work with social services, and it felt like I was at one of their conventions. Anyway, because I went out there, I decided I would take the last 3 days to head up to the Grand Canyon. And it was so amazing that I am going to start traveling. And I have reservations to head to Alaska for 9 days in September. And everything's turned around because of that. So I just wanted to say thanks.
Where in Alaska are you going?
I'm flying into Anchorage, and I'm renting a car, and then I have Airbnbs rented all the way up to Fairbanks and back, and just going to drive around.
The most beautiful country in the month of August, anyway, I have ever seen is Alaska. Alaska in the summertime photographs don't do it justice. You can try verbally to describe it, but unless you have been there, I mean, have you ever been before, Joe?
Oh, no, I've never really been anywhere before. So
you send me an email. Email, and you let me know how that trip went. I was married there.
I am so excited about it. It just sounds like everything I would like to do. I wanted to go in early September in hopes of seeing more of the Northern Lights. So
I've heard that in the wintertime it is depressing. I don't know. I need somebody who's from there. But
I already live in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I don't need wintertime.
Okay. All right. Do you know that feeling that my wife Natalie has been going through? Do you feel a sense of dread when it's going to get dark and cold with mountains of snow, etc.?
Yeah, well, yeah. And that's what I'm kind of planning, hopefully this winter, to go someplace warm for a week.
You are going to love Alaska. I'm excited for the memories that you are going to make. And I appreciate the kind words. Joe, you're amazing. Have a safe and wonderful trip. Go make some memories. And thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. See you later. Never saw as many RVs in my life as I saw in August in Alaska. I mean, hundreds everywhere you went. You're on the highway and it was just driving by you. RV, camper, RV. I was crazy. There must be an entire industry of people who are going to Alaska and they just stop somewhere and plug into an outlet at a campsite somewhere, and just wherever they stop happens to be home that night. It sounds a little bit romantic. I once asked my wife, hey, would you ever want to do that? Would you ever want to get like a big motorhome or something and just drive? And she looked at me like I had grown a second head. Are you shitting me? She's like, no, I want a real bed and an actual room. And I don't want to sleep on wheels. She was like, and I kind of get that. But there are some people, I think, they can go out there and they can wander and discover in that way. And then they just stop wherever they want to stop. It's mobile. It's liberating. It's freeing. Are you a settler or are you a pioneer? This is an interesting question for different personality types out there. 840. Is it JD?
Yes.
Thanks for calling. What's on your mind, JD?
I've been wanting to call for so long to one of these shows because I've been in a really bad situation with my daughters, and my daughter actually put stitches on my head because I don't believe in the religion anymore. I didn't believe in it for so long, but I finally came out just recently that this is all bogus, and I'm sorry that I put my girls into it. I apologized to them, and that I put them into religion, and I feel really bad about it. But for some reason, my daughter just exploded on me and sent me to the hospital. I got stitches put on my head, and it's just a lot of stuff has been going on. My family's not even talking to me anymore because of religion.
I'm stuck on assault. You were assaulted to the point where you needed to go to the hospital?
Yes.
Are you in any way concerned about these violent tendencies? We're talking about a disagreement on ideas, and she got physical. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not a professional, but and we were talking about someone who lashed out physically over a disagreement. So is there cause for further concern moving forward?
Yeah, I'm not associating with anybody in my family anymore. Not until everything cools down in a couple of years or so. And if it's not cool, I don't have a problem not talking to my family over some bullshit because I'm not listening to this.
Ultimately, I think as long as you are not unsafe around somebody who may have some very violent and dangerous, problematic, troubling tendencies, something that a professional does need to address, perhaps even law enforcement needs to address. As long as you are safe, I'm sorry about the break in the relationship with your family, but I understand it. And unfortunately, it's not uncommon. People who require validation will do often some desperate and horrible things if they do not feel validated. I'm sorry that happened to you, brother.
I just wanted to mention that to you, and I appreciate all your work you do, and I always share the broadcast with everybody. I know they get mad at me, but I don't care. So I really don't care. I'm up sharing. I'm gonna keep sharing. I don't care.
I just tell them I'm a teddy bear. Seth is just
exactly right.
Teddy bear. All right, brother. Hang in there, JD. And I'm sorry it happened, but keep kicking. Okay.
Well, thank you for taking my call.
All right. See you later.
Have a good one.
Riley, thanks for waiting. Are you there?
Yep.
Thanks for calling. What do you got for us?
Rachel Kane made a video a few days ago about those comments that Christians make about, seeking God, or if you just accept Jesus, they may not necessarily be for us, more for them to quash any potential questions that they may have in their own mind. And that really got me thinking, they are so desperate to stay believers. And she went on to say that not just because of the fear of God, but more so that they risk losing their community. They could lose friends, a family, a spouse, children. There is so much at stake by asking questions and potentially losing faith or losing faith entirely, that they project these questions and direct them at us.
So when you hear the story of JD and his daughter physically lashing out, you think that his daughter was perhaps, maybe that was a defense mechanism to help insulate her from doubt, right? It's like a fight or flight response against a perceived threat. Does that sound right to you?
I think so. Granted, I don't know JD. I don't know his family, his daughter, but I think it's a definite possibility. She has also posited that those comments are also performative, especially on social media. It's performing for God. They want him to see that they are defending him. Not only do they not want to lose their faith, their community, they do not want to be sent to hell if it exists.
So I'm a great crusader. I've gone to battle for you, God. Could be a lot of gears in that machine. Riley, I do appreciate you, and the journey is yours to take. Thanks for calling the show today.
Thank you.
All right. See you later.
You too.
Let's hang out some more. Let's just join hands and fellowship together in the Lord. Well, not in the Lord, but we'll fellowship together. More of your calls next. If you haven't checked out my second podcast, I would love to have you do so. Listen, subscribe, share on all major podcast apps. True Stories with Seth Andrews. 3 times a week, 5-minute vignettes, hopefully you like what you hear. True Stories with Seth Andrews, or go to truestoriespodcast.com. And back to the phones. I've got Bruce. Hey, Bruce, thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You bet. Let's talk. What's on your mind?
I wanted to call in after I heard JD also tell his story about getting disconnected with his family. And I hear way too many stories like that. And that's the reason that I'm afraid to do it with my parents. I've come a little out to them, but coming out all the way as a non-believer, I just know they would react pretty similar to all the other stories I've heard.
How old are they, Bruce?
My parents are in their 70s. I'm in my 40s.
No plans ever to just say, kind of, this is where I'm at on my journey? I'm not pushing you. Well, maybe I am. Well, because I want you to be able to be you in front of everybody without shame. I mean, they're doing it. But that generation, a lot of people have a cost-benefit discussion. It ain't worth it, right? I don't know how much longer they're going to be here and the grief it's going to bring into my life. Maybe I'll just shut up around them and do my own thing over here. And that's not invalid. But, I was curious as to the generation they're from.
Yeah, well, they're pretty healthy. They're going to be around for a while. And the inevitable issue coming up is that I do have daughters that are 7 and 9, and they spend a lot of time with grandma and grandpa. And, they're getting mixed messages. That's the reason I knew that I was going to have to come out eventually, but now it's inevitable. And, just afraid I'm going to end up with a relationship like JD's. They've known that we're not taking them to church since they were a lot younger. And that's what sparked some conversations with my parents. I've had a bunch of sit downs with them explaining specific parts of the Bible or philosophies I have trouble with the Bible. And they've been good conversations. A lot of it is thanks to not coming out suddenly, doing it gradually. But I got comfortable and I liked our relationship, and I wasn't ready to drive us apart with, telling them I don't believe.
Okay.
I get by with not taking them to church. Every once in a while, letting them take the kids to church, and the kids get to experience it, and we talk about it, and it's a good thing I got going on. I just don't want to mess it up.
What I'm struck with, though, is if this screws up your relationship with your mom and dad, that's kind of their fault. You've sort of said, well, I don't want to make it worse, or I don't want to ruin our relationship. Well, what I hear is, if they hear that you are raising humanists, skeptics, critical thinkers, etc., they are the ones who are going to freak out. And that tells me that the problem really is theirs and it's not yours. And I think that might be a helpful shift in how you think about these things. If there are hard lines drawn, you're not the one drawing them. And you are the parent. They are not. Right? I'm not trying to diminish their role as grandparents, but they don't get to tell you how to raise your kids. And I don't think they get to tell your kids who they are, what they think, where they should worship, right? Which dogma they should embrace or not embrace, blah, blah, blah. So, give yourself a little bit of grace on that, man. If things get sticky with mom and dad, nobody wants that, but it'll be their fault.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it'll be sticky as far as them lashing out or anything, like JD dealt with. This would just be more sadness, breaking mom's heart, breaking dad's heart.
But I worry about the kids, right? I mean, do you feel like they're the kind of people who'd sneak the grandkids off to church, right? Mom and dad aren't going to get them saved. So we'll kind of, hey, you want to come see us on Sunday? And then they sneak them off to church and bring them to the altar to say the salvation prayer. I've heard those stories. Do you have any worries that they might do that?
I think my kids are a little smarter. They know what grandma and grandpa believe. They know what me and my wife believe, and they know that the choice is theirs. And, after they do go to church or learn a Bible lesson, we do talk about it with them and tell them why we think it's maybe a good lesson, but not true, or maybe it's a bad lesson.
Now, think about that, though.
Trying to keep everyone happy.
Bruce, think about it. Think about how much success you've already had. Your kids are already at a point where they're processing things as skeptics first. That tells me how much you are succeeding. You have given them the tools to be able to start to navigate all of these truth claims that are coming their way. So grandpa and grandma take them off to church and try to pull a fast one. And your kids are like, red flag. This feels kind of sketchy. I'm not necessarily buying it. That means you have succeeded in training your kids that it's okay to think for themselves and given them many of the tools in which to do it. And I think that's amazing. So, I hope things work out with mom and dad, but it sounds to me like you are already doing some good parenting over there, Bruce. Give yourself some credit.
I do. And I give you a lot of credit and shows like yours for filling me in on how to do it, because it's new to a lot of us,
Well, I'm not a parent, but I have had like Dale McGowan, who's written books on secular parenting, and I lean on them. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And as someone who was indoctrinated as a kid, I do have strong opinions about how I wish I had been raised, telling me how to think and not preaching what to think. And that was my background. So it sounds like your kids are learning how to think, and that's huge. I look forward to seeing their lives in the years ahead. I have a feeling they're going to be tooled up in this crazy world a lot better than many. So appreciate you so much, Bruce. Thanks for the kind words too.
All right. Thanks a lot.
All right. See you later. Oh, I've heard those stories. When we weren't looking, they took my kid to church and said, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell. And my child came back crying and terrified, and they thought I was going to go to hell and blah, blah, blah. Massive boundary violations. I hear these stories. I get these emails all the time. It just makes your blood boil. Even if the grandparents believe they're doing the right thing, of course they think they're doing the right thing. They're not going to be the villain in their own story. But at what are you doing? How have you given yourself permission to do that? Oh my God. It makes the blood boil. Ray, thanks for waiting. You there?
Yes. Hi, Seth.
Let's talk, Ray. What are you thinking?
I came up with a falsification test for transubstantiation.
Now, for those there may be a few who don't know what we're talking about. Transubstantiation is the belief, especially in the Catholic Church, that when you take communion with the juice or the wine and the cracker, that as you partake, these miraculously transubstantiate into the actual flesh and blood of Jesus Christ. I actually wrote about this in one of my books where some people tried to do experiments. They prayed over the grape juice and the crackers and they tried to monitor it as people were eating, and it just didn't work out. Go ahead. Transubstantiation. You've got an equation. Go ahead.
Yes. Very simple test. First of all, you're probably going to you have to do this where they serve alcohol, not juice. You take your blood alcohol level before and after, and it's probably best to do it on a day when the church is mostly empty and you're the only one there. So you can take a bigger gulp rather than just a sip.
I was going to say, if you're doing a thimble full of wine, I don't know if that'll affect the level of alcohol measured in your blood. That doesn't show up on a breathalyzer, does it?
Probably not. You definitely have to vary the ritual. You have to exaggerate the ritual to test it properly.
Okay. Well, if
you have to get in the line multiple times.
So if you go in and, sneak a quart or a few cups of wine, maybe I need a bigger goblet.
Yes.
I see.
BYOG.
Honestly, though, the premise of your experiment isn't bad, because at any level, I mean, if it was specifically the blood of Jesus Christ, you should be able to drink copious amounts of it and it would not affect your blood alcohol level. So I think I like the premise of your experiment.
Definitely. And you definitely need to have a designated driver when you do this test.
Okay. We'll suggest it to the next priest who meanders by. Thanks for your experiment. Good stuff. Take care, brother.
You too. Bye.
All right. See you later. I always thought it was weird coming out of a fundamentalist Protestant church that they use real wine. We were warned against any sort of alcoholic beverage. The Bible would say, do not get drunk with wine. I was raised in such a conservative home that, I mean, there would have been a scandal if someone had put a beer in the fridge. We weren't even allowed to hum a beer jingle. I think we were in the car once and they had this Miller beer. If you've got the time, dun, 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 one beer stands clear, Miller beer. When we'd heard that on television, I'll tell you, that's the power of advertising, is that, 4+ decades later, I still remember the jingle. But me and my siblings were in the car and we started singing the jingle. My mother was scandalized. Don't you sing that song. It's about alcoholic beverages, which are a marker for satanic activity. I don't know. I'm just saying. Darlene 301. Hi, thanks for waiting. Are you there?
I am.
Darlene, let's talk. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say I've been doing some writing letters to the editor of local newspapers in my area about humanism, trying to present another point of view. I come from a Pentecostal, very fundamental family. And anyway, so our local newspaper has all those sermons basically in the newspaper every Sunday. And I just get kind of sick and tired of reading about how I'm going to go to hell. So I decided to have a little communication with the editor, and he published about 3 different submissions that I came up with. So I would say that it's working, and I would encourage other people to get involved in your local area because, you know, they say politics is all local.
So your Sunday paper publishes sermons?
There are sermons in the newspaper. They have a section, it's the faith and values part of the newspaper. And you've heard the sermons about, you know, you have to accept Jesus in your life. And if you don't, you go to hell. And, you know, it's the typical Pentecostal fundamentalist kinds of sermons. It's a very rural area. A lot of the January 6 people who went to prison for the insurrection, for being involved in going into the Capitol and beating up on policemen and stuff like that. Quite a few of them are from the surrounding area. So you get the idea of the kind of community that I'm talking about.
Darlene, I don't,
yeah.
I hate to admit this, but when I see someone involved in the insurrection in January 6th, and I read that they were given a prison sentence and punished,
mm-hmm.
I feel a sense of real satisfaction. Does that make me a bad person?
Well, if you're a bad person, then I'm a bad person because I believe in accountability.
Yes. I'm sorry. The idea that people think these are martyrs or heroes, it just makes me crazy. So whenever I see so-and-so was given 2 years in prison, I find a warm glow happens inside my heart because in that moment, I feel like there might be hope for justice and law and order and basic human decency. It doesn't last long, but I do feel it, Darlene. So I just wondered maybe if we could share that.
Well, I think a lot of America is sharing that feeling as we watch indictment after indictment after indictment.
You know what I can't get over? Freaking
the
Trump, right? He flies to and from the indictment in his own custom-fitted 757 Boeing jet. Mr. I'm accountable and beholden to no one, Mr. Business Genius Billionaire. And then he goes on social media and he begs people to send in their money because he needs to fund his legal team. And I'm just like, how stupid are people? He supposedly has more money than God. Why is he begging? And the reason he's begging, obviously, is because he's always been a grifter. But the people donating think that they're part of some sort of a righteous cause as they send in their hard-earned money. It makes me crazy.
I hear you. I feel you. I get it. Right. And that's another reason why I decided to speak up and share my voice in the local newspapers, because I want other people to know that are in my community. They're not alone. There are other people that are humanists who do not fall for this Christian nationalism BS. You know, the 2 fellows that were on there previously, you know, talking about being separated from their family because they are no longer believers. I get that. I'm in the same situation, but I just went and sought a new family and new friends. So I would encourage them to seek out people in your community. And if there's nobody local, then open up your boundaries and find community, make new friends. I'm looking forward to going to the FFRF convention in October. Are you going?
I will not be at that event, but for those who do want to go, I have linked it. It's on the events section at thethinkingatheist.com. Let me know how the event is. I have one final question, Darlene, real fast. When you have those letters to the editor published, do you go back? I mean, are people allowed to comment on those? I'm guessing there's pushback in the comments after those are published.
You know, I really was expecting to get a lot of hate, but actually I got a lot of positive smiles. And yeah, they allow sometimes for people to comment. And so far, it's been pretty positive.
That's got to be encouraging. Maybe there are more of us than people realize, huh?
I think there are. That's why I'm saying, get involved with your local community. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper. Tell them how you feel.
Good stuff. Thanks for calling. Thanks for the encouragement.
You got it.
All right. Take care. I had a letter to the editor. I'd never written one before. And it was about Ryan Walters, the superintendent of public instruction in the state of Oklahoma, who is just out of his mind. Christian zealotry. He's freaking out about this quote unquote attempt to spread the religion of atheism in Oklahoma. And I'm like, what planet do you live on? And this desire to make our state a Christian state against all the Native Americans who don't have Christian faith traditions, and the Buddhists and the Hindus and the Muslims and the Sikhs and the Jews and the seculars and the atheists, etc., and how these people want to make us all second-class citizens. And it felt good. It felt good to put those ideas down. I don't really know who reads the letters to the editor, but it felt like maybe it needs to be seen among all the other stuff that's out there. Maybe somebody will stumble across it. And who knows, maybe it'll help open somebody's mind. A lot of people who operate inside insular cultures don't ever think about how it affects other people. And, if you frame it that way, maybe it caused the light bulb to go off. Maybe I'm just kidding myself. But Darlene has a great point. As we go out and curse the darkness, we should also be out there spreading some light. Let's destroy the false, but let's also make room and build the true and support the true. Good medicine. That's going to do it for me, my friends. Be safe and well. I'll see you back here next time. Take care.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.